Hello everyone, welcome back to Disaster News. I'm your host, the meddling maniac, menacing the mysterious ways of magnetism. More importantly, how that magnetism from this and around our planet affects the human brain that have epilepsy. There's a connection there, and I'm trying to make it. And now let's take a look at the KP index. There was a spike yesterday, shot up to about a 5. And when I say that it spikes up, I'm just referencing the fact that it's in an area on this chart to pay attention. You can keep track of how you feel throughout the day so that when these spikes arrive, you can compare it to how you're feeling. And maybe if it applies to you, you'll come back here to Disaster News, you'll hit that like button, you'll subscribe, and come back tomorrow and we'll keep trying to figure this out. We're all in this together, man. And tonight there'll be a coronal hole connection between the sun and the earth. That'll probably put the planet on a minor storm watch. We'll have to wait and see. Now you can head over to Suspicious Observers and he will explain this a whole hell of a lot better than I do. But from what I understand, what he shows each day and the kind of real-time charts you get with the disaster prediction app will help you to connect the notes that you take through the day, things that we see with the KP index, and comparing it against this chart that shows the health risks. It's just something to take a look at if it applies to you. And before I lose the ones that it doesn't apply to, this does apply to all humans, all of us. And that leads me to ask questions like about magnets. And the thing I found is we don't know a whole lot about magnets. Scientists and physicists know very little about how they work, what they do. Even though we do not understand the mysterious ways of the magnets and what makes them work, we can make magnets with electricity. We can observe the magnetic field, say, around the planet, or say, like Caltech did. Shinsuke Shimojo at Caltech and Connie Wong did a study where they observed the changing magnetic field around one's brain. Now you may ask, why am I saying that this is a connection between epilepsy and the magnetic field around the planet? Well, because of studies like this. But it also brought my attention to, would our DNA change? And as we discussed in other videos, does the electrons and protons have an effect on DNA when it's being formed in the womb? And with that, we can see that it is affected some way, shape, or form with electrons and protons passing through. Some of those key proteins can only develop in a certain way with the electrons passing through it. If the magnetosphere was really strong in ancient times, would that lead the DNA to create smaller animals, smaller species of things? If the magnetosphere was really weak, would that allow for giant organisms like dinosaurs and, say, giants to appear or to grow over millennia? So when you see things like the magnetosphere affecting the DNA inside of animals and during the birth of these animals, we have to take into account the strength of the magnetosphere around the planet while these DNA are forming inside of a womb. And that connects to me, the DNA being formed inside the womb during geomagnetic storms could be altered enough to have effects that we're not quite aware of yet. We don't understand a lot of things. Why is there a stigma around asking questions about how the magnetosphere affects the human mind? Or say that you have to do a video about your study in a way under certain guidelines so that you do not get your funding pulled. That also tells you something. And that leads me to more questions. How these mysterious magnets work on these magnificent brains. And that's a mystery that this meddling maniac intends on solving. So what does all this mean? I don't know. Where does all of it come from? Hell, I don't know that either. Oh man, this is so nuts. And if you come back tomorrow, we'll try again to wrap our heads around this convoluted cluster that is our reality. Safe travels, everybody. Peace.